Aloha, Steve Tobis here, and I'm stoked to make this video. Over the past few weeks, I've been testing some of the top parawings you can buy right now: the BRM Maliko, the ENSIS Roger, and the Flow Paragliding D-Wing. These are three of kind of the first big production wings that have come to market in the parawinging world. Now, there's other stuff that's recently released I just haven't been able to get a hold of, like the Ozone wing. I know Nash has one that's coming. So it seems like all the big manufacturers are kind of jumping on this parawing hype train. I've been able to get a hold of three, and I've been putting them through the paces here in Maui over the past few weeks. I've been riding them in flat water, in waves, I've been downwinding. I've been really trying to find out, how does each one of these wings perform? How do they compare against each other? And trying to put this all together and help you decide what's the best for you. Now, to start this off, I've always tried to be really transparent about where my gear is coming from, just to kind of address any perceived bias there is when I talk about different brands or different types of equipment. So if you saw my video on the BRM Maliko Parawing when it launched, you'll know I bought that one just straight up as a retail customer. I was super stoked on the concept and the product, and I just immediately busted out my credit card and bought it. And then I recently joined ENSIS as a team rider, so they sent me the Roger Parawing as part of my gear package. And the folks at Flow Paragliding, Felipe, was kind enough to reach out to me on Instagram and ask if I wanted a wing to do a video on. So that's kind of how I acquired these wings. I do not care what wing you buy. If you buy all of these, if you think this is dumb and you want to buy none of them, it really doesn't matter to me. So really the whole goal here is to just compare them against each other and share my thoughts and feedback on each of the wings. So let's get into it. Starting with the BRM Maliko Parawing, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this is a wing that kind of kicked a lot of this off. Most people have seen it and I've already done a video on it. So if you want some more detailed stuff, check those out. This wing kind of does pretty much everything really well. This is what I started on. I still enjoy riding this wing today. Some notable things to kind of compare that are a little different with the ENSIS and the Flow wing is the handle here, the BRM. You know, it's this nylon material, has the adjustable middle connection point. And BRM put out a bridle adjustment a month or so after their launch. So it kind of gave the Maliko a little more range, a little more D-power, and just let the rider have a little more input into the wing. One thing I did do was I upgraded my handle with some of this EVA foam. I wanted just a little bit softer grip. I found in longer sessions, the nylon was a little abrasive on my hands. So I just did a little EVA foam wrap on here. That's really all I've changed. I've done the bridle update, and other than that, this is kind of how I run it. I've had a lot of sessions on my 3-meter. It's still in really good shape. You know, I've gone through the ringer with it. It's been washed, it's gone through waves, it's been drug underwater, and it still performs great. And then finally, to wrap up the BRM, we have the storage sack. So this comes with each one of their parawings. It's large enough you could fit 2 or 3 easily in here, in addition to the waist belt. So I kind of like this because I just keep both my wings in here, and it's easy, it's small, throw it in the car, and I travel with everything. On to the ENSIS Roger. The storage bag is a little different. It's more kind of like a kite bag or a wing bag. We have this roll top with the buckle here and a little zipper on the front. So a lot of storage, and it's a backpack configuration. So there's definitely plenty of room in here. If you want to put a couple, you could stuff 2 or 3 into this bag. So I think that's kind of a nice feature to have. Or if you travel with, you know, wetsuit tops or a towel or something, there is room for more stuff in this bag. Getting into the actual wing itself, the handle here you can see is a little different than the BRM. Now this is a configuration that ENSIS is in the process of updating. So definitely check that out if you haven't looked at this wing. This is a more of an oval handle here where it's a little taller this way than it is this way and has this solid EVA grip on it. It's definitely heavier and a little more overbuilt than the BRM. So it just has kind of a sturdy, solid feeling. This is a large plastic piece. And then we have this part here in the middle. Now, this is a connection point where if you want to ride with a leash, you can. I personally don't ride with a leash. I feel like you don't need it with these parawings, but if that is something that is important to you or you want to have a type of tether, the ENSIS is set up for it. Basically what happens, you clip here and the bar will slide up and it'll totally kill the power of the wing. It'll stall it onto the middle lines, the wing will collapse and just kind of sit right downwind of you. This isn't a chicken loop or a sheeting mechanism like you might think of a kite. Really, this exclusively works as a D-power. For me personally, I found that, you know, I would rather remove this stopper ball because with wave riding, this was just another point that lines could get twisted or tangled on. Really, for my configuration for this is I'm going to remove this stopper ball, adjust this so it's only a knot sitting right here in the middle. This also means your B-lines are not adjustable. They're just set and forget. One of the big design differences between the ENSIS and the BRM or the Flow wing is an extra set of bridles. And these are right behind the A-lines. There's this set here, which is going to my leading edge. And then there's this set of bridles that's moving just behind that leading edge. And then we have our middle lines and our rear lines. So this is kind of an A line. This is a A.5, or AB. Then here's your B and here's your C. So I found that with the Roger, it had really good support and structure in the wing. It pointed upwind incredibly because it's a really high aspect design. But when I was wave riding, I found that I was more prone to getting some tangles, and I wasn't as consistent with my redeploy because of that extra line set and also having this little extra stopper ball here on the handle. It just wasn't as sleek and smooth where lines can just slide right off. Into the actual canopy itself, this is a heavier material than the BRM. It feels closer to like a kite type material or your wing material. What that means is, this feels a little more durable, like it can take a little more of a beating compared to the BRM, but it does come at the cost of pack down size. So it's kind of hard to show on video the difference, but you can see this is how I pack them down when I'm wave riding. I did the exact same process to get them into this state, and you can see the BRM is about half the size of the ENSIS Roger. This thinner material, it just collapses a little smaller. It's hard to say which one's gonna be more durable or not. They're both working great. I haven't had any failures in them, so who knows? It's kind of only time will tell. We have this nice colored leading edge, so it's really easy to see which way is up on your wing or which way you want to redeploy. Having this bright pink strip is a good reference point. Then the rest of the canopy is this dark gray. So it's really easy when you're going to do a redeploy to know which way is up. This also has some of the plastic battens, kind of like the BRM. And when you kind of just look at them at face value, they're similar. The ENSIS does, have that extra set of bridles and a little different handle configuration. But as far as the canopy appearance, they're a very similar looking design. The ENSIS is higher aspect. So what I found with that was it does sacrifice a little bit of the low end pull, but it makes up for it in the upwind performance. If you want a wing that's going to be stable and responsive, have really good upwind, and you're kind of willing to give up some of that consistency in the redeploy for wave riding, then definitely the Roger could be a good thing to look at. And now finishing off with the Flow Paragliding D-Wing. This has been the hot thing in the parawing industry this past few months. And it's had a lot of great reviews. People have really enjoyed it, and I was really stoked to get a hold of this. So thank you to Felipe, the folks at Flow Paragliding, for sending this over and letting me get some sessions on it and do a video about it. So first off, this bag here, stylistically, this is more in line with the BRM, kind of this mini duffel stuff sack configuration. It is much smaller. So to just kind of give you a size comparison, here's the D-Wing and here's the BRM. So I could fit this inside my BRM stuff sack with my BRM wings in it. This is much smaller, much lighter, but it will realistically only hold one wing. Maybe if you have two of the smaller sizes, then you could fit them in one. But as far as the 3-meter sizing goes, it's one wing for one bag. There is also no extra storage in it. It holds the wing. There's more than enough space to get your wing in it. There's just not a ton of room for extras on top of that. So the D-Wing handle, this is essentially the identical to the BRM. It has this nice EVA foam on it, which I really like. This is an upgrade I did myself to my BRM wing, and it's nice to see this in the Flow wing. So this was really comfortable, had good grip. When it got wet, it was really controllable and didn't tear up my hands after long sessions. Has the split colorway here, so the blue side is up. This is your leading edge. Really easy to identify and orient your wing. And then we have this this adjustable middle piece. If you want to adjust or tune your Parawing, you can move this middle point to move those middle bridles. One of the things I really liked about the D-Wing was the individual color bridle lines. This is something that I feel like has been kind of a miss from a lot of the Parawing manufacturers so far, is they're using the same colored lines. I really liked having this red, orange, and green for the front, middle, and rear lines. It makes on-the-fly untangling super easy and super quick, especially in the waves when I'm riding. I'll go to do a redeploy and I might get just a small wrap or something, with one line. And when they're all the same color, I have to sit there for a minute and look at it and try to figure out which way to route it to untangle it. With these separate colored lines, it's really easy, it's intuitive, and it's quick. So this is something that floated really well. Nice job. I really like this. Into their canopy, we have the separate colored leading edge. So this one is orange and white. The white is the leading edge. It's really easy to orient this wing and just throw it out and it redeploys. Similar to the BRM and the ENSIS, this has these little plastic struts or profilers in the leading edge. And as far as just the overall design looks very similar. Kind of all the Parawings look more or less the same. I don't really understand the nuances and differences enough to kind of speak to it. This is a lower aspect design than the ENSIS. What I found was While this did have good upwind performance, it didn't point as steep as the Roger would. The trade-off for that though is I had much better low end. I could ride this D-Wing in like 3 to 5 mile an hour less than I could the Roger and even the BRMs. And when I got overpowered, it wasn't unmanageable. You know, I could kind of load the foil, I could let out that trailing edge a little bit, and I could hold the wing down in a lot of power. So as far as range goes, the D-Wing I felt had the most range of all the wings I tested. So as far as canopy material, the Flow wing does feel a little heavier than the BRM. It's definitely lighter than the ENSIS. It's also hard to tell because my BRM is old and used, so it's nice and soft, where this is brand new, so it's very crispy. You know, so this feeling of it being a little bit heavier material could just be a wear difference, you know, in dozens of ride hours on one wing versus another one being crispy and new. Basically, the D-Wing feels close to the BRM, although maybe a little bit heavier. So we'll do a size comparison in the pack down. So I basically did the pack down that I do when I'm riding waves, and you can see they're pretty similar. It's not dramatic enough to where I could say it's definitely heavier or bigger than the other. So there's kind of your comparison. So when I first got a hold of these wings, I put a question out on Instagram. I was like, what do you want to know? What information should be addressed with these wings? And the number one comment I got was really simple. Which one's the best? And that's such a loaded question. The way I look at it, what I think is the best might not be what you think is the best. And I've kind of had to spend some time to think about how do I want to address that and answer that question, because the reality is they all have their own thing that they're the best at. And I think kind of the best way that I can boil it down is what disciplines creates conditions that each wing will have its best performance. So for me, in my testing, in my riding, I found the BRM to be really kind of a catch-all, does everything pretty well. It's really fun to ride, has good low end, goes upwind, it packs down small. If you're looking for something for downwinding where pack down size is really important and you want to stuff this thing away and not touch it for 40 minutes, then yeah, the BRM I think kind of takes the cake. Maybe the Flow wing is a very, very close second, and the ENSIS is just a little bit bigger. There's just more canopy material there. All these are 3-meter sizes, so really what that comes down to is the thickness of the canopy. Now, if you want a wing that's going to perform really well for free riding or going upwind and then riding downwind, if you're not doing a ton of stowing and redeploying and you just want a comfortable wing, if having a safety leash is something important to you, then that's where the ENSIS starts to pull ahead, where it has some of those features that the other two necessarily don't bring to the table. And kind of similar to the BRM, the Flow wing is another one that I felt just did everything really well. It went upwind, it went downwind. If you're a heavier rider or you like to ride some smaller gear, which that's kind of, you know, the category I put myself in. I liked the low end and that get up and go performance from the Flow wing. I felt like I just had a lot more confidence going out on a smaller wing when it was light. I felt that the Flow wing was really, really stable, almost to a point of being overly stable. You know, to me, that comes down to just rider preference. Do you want a wing that you just throw out and park and it pulls you around and is just there when you want it? Or do you want something that allows you to have a little more input into the wing? So to kind of wrap this up, whichever wing fits best for the conditions and disciplines that you like to do is going to be your best choice. There is no right or wrong answer. I really don't care which one you buy. I think these are all great choices, and I hope you have fun on the water. Aloha.